Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on what's the lunch hour for many people. This is Chris White at the California Fuel Cell Partnership. Today, Joe Gagliano and Ben Xiong are going to give you an overview of what's going on now with the hydrogen fueling station network. Joe's going to show you the stations that have opened, what's coming on next, and how you can think about maybe getting a station near where you live. And Ben is going to show you the CaFCP Station Map that was upgraded in January, and also how to use SOS. Everybody's phone is on mute. You're in listen-only mode, but you're welcome to ask us questions as we go, and we will have 2 question and answer periods during our presentation as well. So with that, we're going to send it over to Joe and let Joe kick things off.
Thank you, Chris. This is Joe Gagliano with the California Fuel Cell Partnership. I just wanted to welcome everybody and say that we've actually been quite busy since our last update in October. During this last quarter, we've moved from 2 retail stations up to now 12, and I'll walk through that shortly. As I mentioned, we've got 12 retail hydrogen stations now throughout California, from Northern California, the Central Valley, and Southern California. And open retail, again, means that the stations, they've been commissioned by the station developer. The local authority having jurisdiction has given it a permit to operate, and it has its DMS sticker, which means it's metrology sticker to legally dispense fuel, and as well, OEM confirmation testing has been completed. In addition to these 12 retail stations we have open, we have the 6 open but non-retail stations, what we call our legacy stations. These have been our R&D stations that have been up and running for a number of years. A few of these stations are scheduled and have funding to upgrade to full retail within the next year. In addition to these stations, we have 8 fully constructed stations, which are now in the commissioning phase, and they'll be coming online shortly. And in order to find out exactly when a particular station is coming online, we direct you to go to the partnership website and check the station map. You'll have all the latest information there. In addition to that, we have 7 stations are now fully under construction, and we'll be moving to commissioning station situation shortly. And then we have a number of other stations that are falling right behind that, and they're basically in various stages of the development process. And with that, we, since our last update, we did update our website. We revamped the website and also put a new map up with new functionality. And with that, I will turn it over to Ben Xiong, who will go into details relating to the new station map functionality. Ben?
Thank you, Joe, and good afternoon, everyone. This is Ben Xiong with the California Fuel Cell Partnership. I manage the Fuel Cell Partnership website and also the station operational status system. And so at any time, if you're browsing through the website or through our SOS system, definitely feel free to shoot me an email or send me feedback through our contact us on this website, or also on SOS. I have my contact on there as well. I wanted to talk mainly about the station map. On our new website, this is we've changed it so it's more mobile friendly, and so if you scroll down about halfway through the front page, you'll be able to see a link to our station map, as well as on our stations link here. There's a link to a station map. The other way is you can just go directly to it at cfcp.org/station map. So once you come onto the page, you'll see a pop-up that's going to ask for your zip code or address. This allows you to see stations nearby you, or if you want to see all of the stations in California, you can just click on the X and cancel out of that to see all of the stations. What you'll see is on the left, the station map, and then on the right, all the stations are in view will be what's shown. So for instance, if you scroll down a little bit, now you'll see just these stations that are being shown. On our, if you're viewing this on your mobile phone, the list will actually be on the bottom. And so again, just wanted to note that, again, scroll down to if you're looking for this list here. If you're looking for just open stations, or if you wanted to filter it by stations that are opening up in the next couple of months, you'll be able to use this filtering system here. By default, all of the checkboxes are checked, and so you'll see all the stations that are in our database. But again, you can uncheck these boxes and just see just retail or open stations, and those stations are coming up within the next few months. There's three main categories. There's the retail open stations, retail in development stations, and then there's the other stations. So these are, the other stations include our bus stations as well as our non-retail stations. If you click on any of the stations on the right here, you'll be able to get more information. So you'll see the type of station it is, the current development status, so whether it's under construction or if it's in the commissioning phase, and also if it's in development, you'll be able to see when it's expected to open. So if you want to go back to list, there's a back to listing, and again, it's just going to show you just the stations that are nearby there. So if you want to see all the stations, again, you can zoom out with your mouse or click on this minus sign here to zoom back to find all the stations again. For the open stations, like for instance West Sacramento here, you'll have a little bit more information. You'll have the basic information that the in development stations have, but you also have the SOS information. So this is real-time information from the stations themselves, telling you whether a station is online or offline. On the bottom, you also have information from the station developers themselves, and so they may, for instance, let you know that the stations are only open during certain times, or etc. And here, this station has provided phone numbers for who you can contact if you need assistance. Also, if you're a customer and you're on this page on your mobile phone and you want to go directly to SOS, there's a link at the bottom that will take you to SOS. And so on this page, we've made a couple of changes since the last time I've shown this. The stations are now being sorted by retail stations up top and then non-retail stations on bottom. However, you can also set up an account and then sort this list based on your preference. It's also by default sorted by alphabetical order, but for this demo, I've already logged in with my account and I've already moved the West Sacramento station to the top because that's the station that I use most often. So to do that, you would first log in and then go to My Account. Again, you would be able to sort your station based on your preference. So if I wanted to go Diamond Bar, I can set the top, and then I would hit Save. The other main thing with creating an account is that you can sign up for notifications. So if you clicked on Manage Subscriptions here, you can put in your phone number and select which stations you want to be notified for. So there's a couple different options. You can be notified via text message, which is SMS, or you can be notified via email. Going back to SOS or to our station map, if you're looking for the list of stations, you can download that list of stations a couple different ways. The first is we have a button on the map here, Download Stations, and when you click on that link, it will give you a PDF of all of the stations. You can also go to our resources and downloads link. And then on here, it's listed in alphabetical order. It's going to be hydrogen stations list. And again, clicking on that list takes you to a PDF of all of the stations in a table format. All right, and so with that, I'll
stay for a minute. So Ben, just a few questions that have come in on the station map and SOS. The first thing is, can you explain what SOS means and what it does?
Sure. So SOS, it means Station Operational Status System. It's a system to let customers know when hydrogen stations are online or offline. So the way it works basically is that hydrogen stations send us data every 15 minutes. From there, we publish that data onto our website, our SOS data, and again, that's m.cafcp.org.
And if you could go back to the SOS screen for just a minute. The two red boxes on San Juan Capistrano, can you explain why those are red squares instead of green dots?
Sure, definitely. So there's three different statuses. There's green circles when the station is online. A red square means that's offline. And then A yellow triangle means it's in limited mode or limited status. So meaning, for instance, that you might not be able to get a full fill if you show up at the station. Also, I also wanted to note that if you do see a red box, please click on the stations, and if we have more information, we'll provide it at the top of that page, and we'll let you know if especially if it's going to be offline for an extended period of time.
Because this station is offline for maintenance.
Correct.
So that's a quick way to tell if a station is offline for maintenance. And if we know a station is going to be offline for planned maintenance, do we put that on there ahead of time?
Yes, we do.
All right. And we have some questions about where do you get the app. It's not an app. We didn't write an app. It's a mobile website, m.cafcp.org. And the last thing is, can you please go back to the station map and show on there when a station is under development? Pick Santa Barbara there. How can you tell when that station is going to be open?
Yes. So if you click on the name or on the details link here, it will take you to a more detailed page here, and they'll give you an expected open date, and that'll let you know when the station's expected to open. And
we update that expected. You know, they are under construction. Construction things come up, and we're just never quite sure. Sometimes it just is that, you know, a tree was planted in the wrong spot. So every Friday we update the spreadsheet that Ben showed you, and we also update the expected open dates on the station map itself. So I'm reading through these really quickly. A lot of questions came in. One question saying we should have a better name than sauce. We all agree with that. It just kind of grew up over time, and it needs a better name. Is it possible to know who is developing the stations? We have not included that with our spreadsheet yet, and we are certainly talking about that information. You know, the more information we start collecting, the harder it is to have accurate information. So right now we have trained to be really accurate for really deep in our information, but we're certainly talking about doing that. I have lots of questions for you about sauce and how you look at it on the phone, and we may follow up with a little bit of a sauce user's manual for everyone. I'm glad to see so many people are using it. And then the last question that I saw on here, I see a lot of suggestions for adding information to sauce, including the price, the developer, planned maintenance. So Ben, is there something that you're looking for, feedback you're looking for from people?
Definitely, definitely. And so we're always making upgrades and changes to sauce and to our website. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to shoot me an email. At the bottom of sauce, there's my name, and you can click on that. That'll allow you to email me directly, or you can give me a call. I have my direct line here as well. And so feel free to give me a call anytime, or shoot me an email to provide feedback, or if you have questions as well. Also on our website, you can also go to our Contact Us page at the very bottom, and that will allow you to send us feedback as well.
And we have a few other questions about some of the terminology we've used, like commissioning and under construction, and Joe is going to be covering those in just a few minutes as well. I may have to come back for some of these because the questions are coming in faster than I can read them. So with that, let's go ahead and kick it. Well, you know what? I do have one question here before we move on from sauce. That information on sauce, how quickly is that updated? Is it real time? Is it?
So the data is updated to us in 15 minutes, every 15 minutes. So it's near real time, not exactly real time.
So about every 15 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we are still developing sauce. Go ahead and switch that back over to Joe. Sauce actually grew up from a calendar that we had for one station that was closed behind the fence. And it has evolved over time, and it's certainly become very important to customers. And we are, again, making the next evolution in sauce. We're planning for it right now. So your feedback on how to make it easier to use. We're not necessarily the front-end developers, but we are certainly the developers of the data that we're collecting and sharing. So anything that you would like to see on the station map or on sauce itself, we really appreciate feedback from the folks that are using it. So Joe, let's go on back to you. I have a lot of questions coming in now about specific stations and when things are going to open and where we are with things.
Yes, thank you, Chris. So with that, these stations are not just pretty colored dots on a map. We actually have real stations out there in the field being used today by many, many fuel cell vehicle operators and owners. Here you see pictures of the stations we have operating in North and Central California. Last quarter we had the West Sacramento station open. Everyone has pretty much seen that. But in addition, over the past quarter we've had additions from San Jose, South San Francisco near San Francisco Airport, and also Coalinga, the Harris Ranch location that's located on the I-5 in the Central Valley. In Southern California, in addition to the Diamond Bar station, which was open last quarter, we now have the West LA station, which is on Santa Monica Boulevard, the La Cañada Flint Ridge station, Long Beach near the 405. UC Irvine, this station actually has been upgraded. This is the same location that has been there for a while. Air Products just upgraded their equipment there to bring it up to retail with their new Bennett dispenser. And in addition, we have the Costa Mesa station as well. Not pictured are the San Juan Capistrano station, which we talked about earlier, and the Santa Monica Cloverfield station, which is open as well. Next stations that will be coming online that are under commissioning right now include mainly about 6 stations in Southern California, Santa Barbara, and a few LA stations, Woodland Hills, Beverly Boulevard, and Cal State LA. Riverside is also in commissioning right now, as is Lake Forest and Orange County. In Northern California, we have in commissioning Saratoga and Hayward. The picture you see here is actually of the Woodland Hills station that is in commissioning right now. And as mentioned previously as well, if you want to know about the open dates, Ben showed you where you can find that information on the website. Just a brief overview of what's the process for bringing a station to full retail in California. And it really is, as you see here, four elements, 4 puzzle pieces to that. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, the station developer develops the station, brings it to operational, putting all the point of sale system in, making sure all the components are working and it's ready to receive customers. It also needs to have a local permit to operate from the local AHJ. And as I also mentioned earlier, it needs a metrology sticker from Department Division of Measurements and Standards. And as well, it needs to also have been confirmed by OEMs through their confirmation process, which includes just checking to make sure that the fueling protocol, the temperature, pressure, flow rate, etc., is within the required parameters. And once all those 4 elements are met, this is when a station will become live retail and go on SOS. Once the station opens right now, you'll notice on SOS and also on the website, a few stations are listed as soft opening. What this represents is it's approximately a 30-day shakedown period where the OEMs evaluate the reliability of the stations. The automakers will stress test the station, bringing in a lot of vehicles to really put it through its paces to make sure reliability is where it needs to be. During this time, customers are encouraged to use the station and provide feedback, and that feedback can be provided through the channel through the automakers. Once this process is complete, the soft opening label will be removed, and you'll just see the regular station name. And the stations that we're making progress towards the initial network. By the end of this year, we're on track to have over 40 retail stations in the network in California. The funding we have in place right now, the government funding, will get us to, the goal is to get us to around 100 stations. The partnership fields a lot of questions from city government officials, from fuel retailers and other parties. How do I obtain a hydrogen fueling station? What's the process? What steps do I need to take? First of all, when we field these questions, this is what you see right before you is a chart, a table of the target areas that are targeted for the next round of Energy Commission funding. And these target areas really focus on a number of different elements of the network. In some cases, they're establishing a new core market, such as San Francisco or in the East Bay and Berkeley, Oakland area. They're expanding core market areas in terms of coverage and capacity. Initiating future markets such as Santa Cruz, Fremont, and Thousand Oaks, and also developing new connector stations to connect these different core markets together. So in these discussions and identifying whether it makes sense to initiate the process to get a station where you are, the first thing you need to look at is it in or near a priority location that has been identified by the state of California, the table I showed you previously. Next, you need to identify, if you're not a retailer already, you need to really identify fuel retailers in your area that are interested and would be willing to move forward with a hydrogen station on their property. The next step would be to contact the partnership, namely me, I can provide you with a list of hydrogen station developers that are currently developing hydrogen stations in the state and other members who are planning on doing so. I can connect you with them as well. Once you connect with a station developer will evaluate different sites looking for really adequate footprints, and that's kind of the delineation in terms of defining whether a station would be, or a location would be good for a hydrogen station. Given that the equipment right now is all going above ground, you really need to look for adequate footprint and available space at a given location to handle the equipment that we've got right now. Also, we need to know, is the government supportive of building such a project? And also, equally important, are citizens, the residents of the community in which the station is going to be placed, are they supportive as well? We've done in the past with certain stations going to certain locations. We have reached out and held information and educational sessions with community groups that are curious, concerned about hydrogen going into their community, and these have been very successful in helping us move forward with putting these stations in. And for additional resources to identify and help you identify what needs to be done for putting in a hydrogen station, you can reference the community readiness fact sheets at the partnership's website at CaFCP.org, or you can also check the hydrogen station permitting guidebook from the governor's office at the link that's shown at the bottom of this screen. And again, we'll have these available for you after this webinar. This is just a list of all the member companies of the California Fuel Cell Partnership, and this just demonstrates that this is a huge effort. There's a lot of companies and government agencies that are involved in making all of this happen. No one party or sector can do it on its own. It really is a coordinated group effort that is really engaged in making this network take shape. And with that, I open up to questions.
So I have loads of questions, and I've been trying to answer a lot of these as we go through. So, Joe, just a couple of points. Can you remind everybody what AHJ stands for?
AHJ stands for Authority Having Jurisdiction, and usually it refers to local government permitting officials and building codes, electrical, and things like that.
Okay, so here's an interesting one. Maybe you could go back to the pictures of the open stations, Ben? Or Joe, I'm sorry, Joe's got control here. Go back to the pictures of, okay, what are the red round devices that are on the canopy there of the blue stations?
Those are the, I believe they're infrared. They're safety cameras to identify the part of the safety systems that identify if there's something that goes wrong with the station. There are multiple safety systems that are in place in each of these stations to monitor all the equipment 24/7. So in case there's anything that goes wrong, the station developer is notified immediately.
Can you also explain a little about the fueling nozzles? So are the nozzles different, and could an H70 car like the Mirai or the Tucson or the Mercedes fill with the H35 nozzle?
Yes, you can. The nozzles are a little bit different, just to delineate between the H70, which is the 10,000 psi nozzle, and the H35, which is at 5,000 psi. If for some reason you go to a station and there is the H70 nozzle is not working, or something's wrong with the system at that time, you can fuel your car with the H35 nozzle. Given the properties of hydrogen being a gas, the H35 at 5,000 psi will only give you half a tank. But you can use both on a Mirai or a Hyundai fuel cell vehicle.
So it's kind of like, if for those of you my age and older will remember the days when you used to have a leaded dispenser, and you could put unleaded gas in your leaded tank, but you could not put leaded gas. It won't fit into your unleaded tank. So kind of the same thing there. They make sure that you can't do it wrong.
Yeah. And and just want to add one other thing too. What's a little bit different from, you fueling with a gasoline nozzle or diesel, when you connect your hydrogen nozzle, fueling nozzle, to your vehicle, the fuel will not flow until there's a seal, which means that the station and the vehicle are literally become one system, one closed system, to make sure that the hydrogen gas fuels your vehicle according to proper protocol.
So I have quite a few questions about how the hydrogen is made or stored in the station. And instead of going one by one, Joe just mentioned some of these stations make their hydrogen on site. Yes?
Yes.
So the
retail stations we've got open now, the most popular method of storing hydrogen is in having it delivered to the property is it's delivered in gaseous tube trailers. So it's stored on site, and when those tube trailers are depleted, they are swapped out in a similar model to what you've got with fuel tankers that come into gas stations right now. So with Lindy stations, it's a little bit different, because what's stored on site at a Lindy station, they have liquid hydrogen stored on site, which is then vaporized and then compressed and then dispensed into your vehicle. So that's delivered as well. Obviously, the capacity for the liquid hydrogen tanks is a bit more than for the compressed storage. With some of our existing what we call legacy stations, the open non-retail stations, like Burbank and Newport Beach, they actually produce hydrogen on site from natural gas lines that run near them. And also some stations as well, such as Cal State LA, has an electrolyzer which produces hydrogen by splitting hydrogen atoms, splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen.
All right, and I'm still reading through a lot of the questions. So many questions have come in. We really appreciate it, and they're we have a big spread of kind of customer use questions and people who seem to be involved with the hydrogen industry. So let me knock off just a couple of them. Scott asked, what's the percentage of green hydrogen in California? By law, we have to have 33% renewable hydrogen. According to a report that the California Air Resources Board put out last July, we're actually on track to be at more about 40% when all the stations are constructed. I'm going to skip through just a little bit again. Yes, Dave asked if we're going to make all of these questions. We're going to use a lot of these questions in our FAQs. We'll also be writing them in a blog. I'm going to compile. I probably have, no kidding, more than 120 questions here I'm trying to read through. So we will make sure that we answer all of them and get them out to everybody so you'll know the answers to everything, even if we don't get to it. So Joe, I have some basic questions about how much does it cost to fill your tank with hydrogen and how far do you go?
The current, if you take the average of the listed retail prices on the network as it exists today, the average listed price for a kilogram of hydrogen is around $14 a kilogram. What the automakers are doing, Hyundai and Toyota, they are providing their customers with fueling cards, and so that the actual cost of the first, I believe it's the first 3 years, automakers will correct me if I'm wrong, the first 3 years, they're covering the cost of fuel for these vehicles. And the second question was, how much does it go? So on board a vehicle, there's about a 5 or 6 kilogram tank of hydrogen, and that will provide a vehicle a range of around 300 miles.
All right, now I'm going to ask you to go forward a few slides. Go to your slide about the soft opening. Right there. We have a lot of questions that came in, probably from people who are driving, about to go over this just a little bit more. Some of the stations that we looked at when Ben was showing us in Station Map said soft opening. So what do people expect during that time, and what do you want people to do during that time?
Yeah, during this time, I've heard this likened to the opening of a new restaurant, where you're just trying out your new menu, and you've got a new chefs or whatever, and you're just trying to make sure you work through your paces and make sure everything is working out the kinks of your food prep system. With the soft openings, even though we've, the station developer has commissioned the station, and all the pieces are in place. The OEMs have come in and done their confirmation testing so that they're sure that so they're confirming that it meets certain requirements. Still when you start stressing a station, there may be some other technical glitches or even software glitches that need to be worked out. Like throughput, if you get too many vehicles coming through, the throughput might trigger something in the software. So that might require you writing some code to make sure that they can handle that and things like that. So it's working out those kinks in both hardware and software of the station. So during this period, even though customers are encouraged to go to the stations and use the stations, just keep in mind that things may be they're still working some things out. So be patient during this time. The OEMs and the station developers are working very hard to get through this soft opening period, and of course the goal is to get these out of soft opening as quickly as possible. So, and of course any feedback we get from fuel cell vehicle users is welcome and appreciated, because sometimes there's anecdotal information that might not be captured through collecting data. So we do encourage customers to help with that process as well.
Yes, I have to say we have one customer up here who has been really great about taking pictures of some funky messages on a dispenser and sending them to us, and it's been very helpful in knowing that sometimes it gives you just a weird sentence that doesn't belong. It's been very helpful to have that type of information. Joe, and maybe Ben both, we have quite a few customers, people on the line who have asked about the Torrance and Burbank stations, that we're not showing those as retail stations. Are they gone? Are they still available? What's up with Torrance and Burbank?
Burbank and Torrance are still operating. Certain OEM vehicles can fuel at those stations. They are what we call part of our legacy station network. Both Torrance and Burbank did get government money to upgrade to retail. So those will be, if you look online, you can find out when the estimated time for when those upgrades are expected to take place. So they should take place sometime later this year.
All right, and just a note here from someone who must be a driver that, like Joe, you mentioned how far you can go before filling up again. Mileage does vary from car to car and from driver to driver as well. So Joe is driving a fuel cell vehicle. I have one up here that we're sharing, or we're all sharing in this office. And so we kind of depends on you, your driving conditions. A lot of stop and go traffic, you're going to get completely different mileage than you do if you're driving mostly on freeways like we do in Sacramento. The next thing I'd like, can you go down one more slide, please? Joe?
Yes.
How to obtain a hydrogen station. We have a lot of interest, a lot of questions that are more along these lines. So you mentioned the CEC funding priority areas, but can you go back to, go 2 more slides? And let's talk about this a little bit more. When you say the amount of space, an adequate footprint, what does that mean? Describe that a little bit more.
Yes, all the equipment, the storage tubes, high pressure storage tubes, compressor, chiller, the dispenser, most of that equipment is stored above ground on a location, on a retail location. So it's going to require, you know, the station developers try to bundle that equipment as compactly as they can. But it's still going to require some square footage. Now, depending on the configuration, and the different developers have different technology, the square footage required could be from under 1,000 square feet to just about 2,000 square feet, give or take. So when we're talking about footprint, and does the retail gas station have enough space for a station, this is what we're talking about. And some of the some of the stations that are like in San Francisco and other, some in LA, in inner city areas, they might be very small and might not be amenable towards adding a hydrogen station into it. Some of the more suburban stations have a bit more room and would have the footprint to really add some additional equipment. So that's what we're talking about there.
And can you describe a little bit more about the funding? So right now the California Energy Commission provides funding. Where else does funding need to come from?
Yeah, the Energy Commission provides the bulk of the funding for capital expenses for building the station. In the last round of funding, this was at 85%, up to 85% of the cost of building a station. The remaining portion is cost share that needs to be borne by the station developer. And in addition, the Energy Commission provides operations and maintenance funding. In the past, this last round, it was they provided $100,000 a year for 3 years to help the station. In those early years, when you're not going to get a lot of vehicles on the road, and the throughput will be, somewhat minimal. But and so that money is there to help the operators kind of work through that, and allow them to get to year 2, 3, and 4 when we'll see more vehicles on the road and more throughput through the station.
All right, I'm reading through. So here's a question that we kind of knew was going to come up. If you can go back to your priority list. There are lots of great places that need stations that aren't on this list. Notably, the Palm Springs are on the way to Las Vegas area. What happens if somebody proposes a station in one of those areas, or needs a station, or wants one in those areas that's not on this priority list?
Well, this priority list is really guides how the Energy Commission will award grants for putting in stations, and they need objective criteria to do so, and part of that are these geographic areas. It depends. There's another round of funding, another program opportunity notice or RFP will be issued, is expected to be issued by the Energy Commission shortly, within the next month or so, according to our latest estimates, give or take. But so this might change. The qualifications might change. But if you're interested in putting in a station, again, this is again for getting government grant funding to help build a station. One of our members is actually using outside money to build stations, so they're not restricted to these target areas. Now, these target areas do coincide with the areas that the auto manufacturers have identified as having a demographic that are either early adopters or already drive hybrid electric vehicles or alternative fuel vehicles already. So these would be great, these are expected to be great communities that would then adopt hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. So that's part of what goes into this calculation and the modeling for identifying the next areas for funding. Obviously, we would like to have, you know, at least 2,000 stations from San Diego all the way up to Lake Tahoe as quickly as possible. But you've got to start somewhere, and you've got to you know, be methodical about how we roll this out. Making sure we roll these out in the right communities, and we make sure that we get, you know, government money, public money going to the stations that are of the highest need and are expected to yield the greatest benefits.
Can you also briefly talk about how much it costs to build a hydrogen station? Yeah, I know the answer is it depends.
Yeah, I was going to say it does depend, but it's you know, I'd say roughly ballpark figure, it's around $2 million, give or take. The network that was put in by First Element, because they were building or awarded a number of stations, they were able to reduce those costs slightly because of volume, but still it's going to be around $2 million, again, give or take. And we expect those costs to, over time, as more and more stations get built, there's more and more equipment orders, things like that, you know, those costs will come down. That's just a snapshot in time right now.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to back up to your puzzle piece slide. There we go. And that metrology sticker. We have a couple of questions about the unit of sale of hydrogen and what does that equivalent to, and is there something that tests to make sure that if you're buying the unit, you're getting the unit?
Yeah, hydrogen is measured in kilograms, not gallons or any other measure. And what the metrology sticker does is when in California, it's the Division of Measurements and Standards. In other states and counties, it's weights and measures is what they're called. What they do is they identify and they test a type of dispenser and they do a metrology test to identify, to make sure that that dispenser, when it says on its on the register, when it says it's dispensed a gallon of you know, for a regular gasoline dispenser, when it's dispensed a gallon of gas, that they measure that to identify that yes, in fact, this dispenser, when it says it's dispensed a gallon, it has in fact dispensed a gallon within a certain very small tolerance. So that's what the same thing applies to hydrogen dispensing as well. So when a dispenser is established, it's installed, the DMS comes out, does the metrology to identify that, yes, when that dispenser says it's dispensed a kilogram of hydrogen, that yes, in fact, this dispenser does within certain tolerances. And then once, if you're within that, I forget the tolerances of 5%, 2%, or 5%, or whatever. So they'll get that sticker, and they'll get that sticker on the dispenser. And once they have that, they can legally sell hydrogen to the public.
Okay, I'm still reading through a few more. How long does it take to build the station?
The old "it depends" routine. It's taken the timeline for putting in a station over the past several years has been reduced considerably. I believe it's the this last round of funding, some of these stations, from award to actually construction and operation, it's been reduced to, I believe, we're now down in months. It used to be measured in years, but now it's really months. And you know, there are so many things, so many layers to putting in a station. You know, you got to get agreements with the CEC before you get moving. You have to have agreements in place with the retail station owner and sometimes the retail property owner. So it takes time to get those agreements in place. And while that's going on, you're walking your permits through the local authorities having jurisdiction. So you have to go back and forth on the plans, and a lot of times, as with any construction project, you know, things change. Requests are made to change things. So I think the station developers are becoming more savvy and sophisticated in working with these officials, and so the timelines have been shortened considerably. So the goal is to get it down to the timeline for putting in a gasoline station.
So I have a bunch of questions that are kind of coming in. They're very similar in tone, and they're asking about who decides what the prices of hydrogen is at the station, and how it's decided if a station is going to have renewable electricity or, renewable hydrogen or not. Those are all questions that the station operator developer makes. We at the Fuel Cell Partnership can't tell anybody what to charge, or no one can order them what type of equipment to put in there. So it is definitely a station-by-station decision. In December, the California Air Resources Board and the California Energy Commission issued a joint report about what it takes to get to the 100 station goal, which is the goal we have here in the state. And one section of that report addresses the cost of hydrogen, and it takes what's being charged right now and does some forecasting of what it would look like in the future. And all of the estimates show that as more vehicles are on the road and there's more demand for fuel, we'll see the price of hydrogen come down to a point where it's equivalent or even maybe a penny or less per mile to operate the vehicle. Other things to point out is, I'm getting a lot of things in from people who are driving fuel cell vehicles and talking about their mileage and how well they're doing with the car and how far they can go, is that a fuel cell vehicle doesn't have any emissions, so you're not going to do a smog check. It is eligible to get a carpool sticker, so you can drive solo in the carpool lane. So those are things to factor into it as well. We also have some questions about, have we talked to like Costco and Safeway and the other big box stores about putting stations in there? We did have conversations with those stores years ago, and their answer pretty much was, parking spaces are a premium. We don't want to give up parking spaces for fuel. And a few of them, like Safeways and Costco, do have fueling islands, but we are still, again, talking about them taking away parking spaces to put in fuel. For right now, the best way to go is to put it into existing retail stations that have space on what's called the forecourt. Hydrogen is above ground storage, and so you need that room to have above ground storage. The other question, and I don't know the answer to this, is how many vehicles are on the road now? We used to keep track back in the old days when there weren't that many cars, but quite frankly, the Fuel Cell Partnership doesn't keep count anymore. The numbers are in the hundreds, and as well as fuel cell transit buses operating at AC Transit in the Bay Area, at Sunlane Transit in Palm Springs, and a bus just went into service at UC Irvine as well. And Joe, I don't know if you know the answer to this. We had quite a few people ask how much hydrogen is dispensed at a station on a day or a month. I don't know that we've done it long enough to start collecting data on that yet.
Yeah, we haven't started collecting data on that yet.
So we had another question about some of the needs in the community. Do we require first responder training? I haven't seen it required yet, but it's something that the Fuel Cell Partnership does. The Fuel Cell Partnership does training with with emergency responders, firefighters, police. We do it on a regular basis. We participated in the development of a national hydrogen safety training course that's available online. We also participate in training for permitting officials so they know what to look for when a permit is turned in, or building inspectors know what to look for when they're inspecting a property. That type of training is one of the reasons that the timeline to permit and build a station has become less. Also is the fact that the governor's office has a small staff that's now devoted to helping cities get hydrogen stations as well as car chargers in place in a faster process. So they have a dedicated help now to turn to. I have questions about the lifespan of a hydrogen station. I don't know, can you answer that, Joe? How long should a hydrogen station last?
That is a question that will, well, I just defer that one to the station developers, but you know, this is the first phase. The stations, the legacy stations, the R&D stations, those were expected to last a few years just to demonstrate the technology. Those 6 or 8 we've identified on earlier in this call, you know, those are operating well beyond what their intended lives. So this next round that are going in now, you know, their durability should be, expected life should be longer than the 3 or 4 years that were expected out of the first round. But you know, there's another. Station developers are actively working to develop the second phase or second generation of hydrogen stations that'll be even more robust and last longer. So there's no, I can't really say with any definition as to how long they're expected to last, but with each generation, the durability will increase.
So I did have, thank you, Esther, for pulling this number up. Esther said that when I said the number of cars, she said the last ABA report, the number of cars was about 300 fuel cell vehicles in California. So thank you for that. And David asked, is there a time when we see there might be more fuel cell vehicles than fueling stations?
Yes.
So we're certainly looking at that as the fuel cell partnership now as well. We're doing well getting the stations that have already funded built. We're looking at where they go from here and what we can do to get to a 100 station goal. And when I say 100 station goals, it's not like, oh, we built 100 stations, that's enough. Everything that we've done as a group and independently through our national labs and our university members and our government members shows that at about 100 stations, the need for government support will start tapering off. It could become self-sustaining at 100 stations. So we're really focused on getting to that goal. And we're just starting to talk about what else can we do to get there. Do we need to look at more smaller stations? Do we need to look at fewer larger stations? Do we need to be reinforcing these clumps or clusters of metropolitan stations or expand out a little further? All of those things are ongoing now, and in fact, in April, we will be having a public workshop in Diamond Bar, to which you'll all be invited, to really discuss some of those very large questions. So Ben and I are both kind of frantically scrolling through these lists.
As Chris is scrolling through, I just wanted to mention again that the Station Operational Status System, or SAS, is available on our website at m.cfcp.org. And we decided not to make an app out of it because we wanted all users to be able to access it from any smartphone. But if you're accessing it on an iPhone, you can save it as your home screen as an icon, and that allows you to quickly access SAS or the station status site right directly on your home screen. So thanks, Andrea, for that tip.
All right, our flood of questions is starting to slow down. Oh, here's one, Joe, that I did miss. Newport Beach, is that scheduled to be upgraded?
At this time, it is not, but that status may change in the future. It really depends on Shell, on what they want to do with it.
So we had Doug ask if you could build a station next to my house. Doug, if you tell us where your house is, we'll certainly look into it. Just kidding. I think we pretty much have them all. I think we got all the questions. Either answered them in public or we've been answering people privately too when it's been a very specific question. Thanks for all the nice comments now as everybody's pulling in. So we will summarize all of these questions and make sure that we post all of the answers. There were a lot of questions. And we'll also send everybody a follow-up email that has this presentation and links to a couple of the documents that Joe has referenced. And we'll also make sure we have links on there to the station map and to our soft front end, the m.cafcp.org. We're certainly looking, particularly from those that are using the station map and SOS as a finder for driving your cars. We'd sure like to hear from you about what we can add, what we can improve, how we can make it more usable. We do know that with the m.cafcp.org, there are a couple of independent companies that are looking at building apps. We really want to focus on providing the data and what data you need to make your driving experience better. And I also want to remind you that we post an updated spreadsheet every Friday. Sometimes it's Monday morning, but we try for Fridays, of where the stations are. And we do this update every quarter. So if there's something more or else you'd like to see in the next quarterly update, please let us know so that we can make sure this is really valuable for you. It is interesting that our first update we had about 40 people register and attend, and this time we had nearly 300. So it certainly shows that word is getting out there and interest is increasing in fuel cell vehicles and hydrogen in California. All right, thank you everybody. Really appreciate